All right, today we are diving into the incredible story of one of Thailand's most revered and, let's be honest, most unconventional monks. We're talking about a man of huge spiritual power, absolutely staggering charity, and a legacy that's, well, it's just as complex as it is inspiring.
To really get this story, we're not starting in a peaceful temple. No, we're starting in a scene of absolute horror. The date is May 10th, 1993, and the Kader toy factory just outside of Bangkok, well, it just erupts in flames. The place was a tinderbox, and it quickly became the deadliest industrial fire in the entire nation's history. And the toll was just devastating. 188 lives were lost. You have to picture it. Workers, mostly young women, were completely trapped. Doors were locked, stairwells just collapsed. The whole building was a death trap. But right in the middle of all this devastation, something happened that people still talk about. A miracle. One woman, seeing no other way out, leaped from a high floor. And somehow, incredibly, she survived the fall. So what was her secret? As she was falling, she was clutching a small amulet, a little medallion with the image of a monk named Luang Phor Koon. And this one event, this one survival story, just catapulted him from being a well-known local figure to a national phenomenon overnight. So that begs the question, right? Who was this man behind the miracle? To really understand his power, we've got to go all the way back to the beginning, to his humble journey as a seeker of truth.
Well, he was born Khun Chatpholkrang, but that's not the name the world would come to know him by. He became Luang Phor Koon Parisuttho. But to the people in his home province, he was something even more. They called him the god of Dan Thod.
And you know, the story of his birth itself sounds like something out of a myth. His mother said that before he was even conceived, she had this incredibly powerful dream. A deity came down from the heavens, handed her a glowing gem, and told her that her son would become a great disciple of the Buddha, a refuge for everyone.
Now, his early life was anything but easy. He was born into a poor farming family back in 1923, was orphaned when he was pretty young, and ended up being raised by his aunt. But it seems like destiny had other plans. At 21, he was ordained as a monk and almost immediately set off on this really grueling spiritual practice called Thudong. Basically, it's a long, solitary journey just wandering through the deep wilderness.
And this is where the story gets really wild. This time he spent in the forest is what truly forged his legend. I mean, this was not just a walk in the woods. This was a full-on confrontation with demons, both the literal and the metaphorical kind.
So picture this. He goes deep into the jungles of Thailand, Laos, and Cambodia. And his possessions? Almost nothing. Just 3 simple robes, a bowl to collect food, and an umbrella that he used as a tent. He was up against wild animals, starvation, and, well, something a whole lot stranger.
He eventually made his way to a place with a seriously fearsome reputation, Pu Khao Kwai, or Buffalo Horn Mountain. And the stories say that one night while he was meditating, he was confronted by a whole host of spirits, the ghosts of some long-lost kingdom. Their leader spoke to him with his really menacing voice, saying that tons of monks had died on their land, and he was going to be next.
But Luang Phor Koon didn't run. He didn't cower. He didn't even try to fight back with magic. Instead, he preached. He just talked to them. He spoke with compassion, teaching them about Buddhist ideas of non-attachment. He explained that their anger was what was trapping them there, and he urged them to let go of their old kingdom so they could be reborn. And it worked. They found peace and their spirits moved on.
Okay, so he's dealt with spirits, but what about other humans? Well, his challenges were far from over. Some local sorcerers got super jealous of how much the villagers respected him, so they conspired to kill him. They used black magic to curse some food and offered it to him. But Luang Phor Koon could sense what they were up to, and he just blessed the food, which completely neutralized the curse. Well, that dark magic had to go somewhere, right? It reflected back onto the sorcerers, and their own families got sick. Terrified, they ran back to him, begging for forgiveness. And here's the kicker. What does he do? He calmly creates some holy water and cures every last one of them.
After years and years of wandering, Luang Phor Koon finally came back from the wilderness. But he wasn't just a solitary hermit anymore. He came back to his home village as a community builder, ready to start the work that would define the rest of his life.
And this guy, he was a true original. He wasn't your typical formal monk. Not at all. He was famous for almost always sitting in a squatting position. He said it kept him ready to get up and work. He spoke really bluntly, using these super informal pronouns, gu and mung, kind of like how a farmer would talk to his friends. But don't let that fool you. This incredibly down-to-earth man managed a monumental transformation, turning the tiny Wat Ban Rai monastery into a massive, thriving center for both faith and community development.
So what was driving all of this incredible work? It really all came down to one single, powerful philosophy, one that fueled a level of generosity that is almost unbelievable.
His whole philosophy was wrapped up in this one simple phrase, Ying Hai Ying Dai. It basically means, the more you give, the more you get. And for him, this wasn't just some nice quote you'd put on a poster. He lived it. He truly believed that holding on to wealth was like a spiritual poison, and the only path to real merit was to give everything away.
And when I say he gave, I mean he gave. So how much are we talking about here? Over his lifetime, it's estimated that donations that flowed through him for public projects totaled more than 6 billion baht. That's over 160 million US dollars. It's an absolutely mind-blowing figure. Let that sink in for a second.
And this wasn't just money disappearing into some abstract fund. No, you can actually see and touch the things it built. Things that still serve people today. We're talking a hospital named after him, multiple schools and colleges for the next generation, public ponds to provide water for farming communities, even university buildings. He was like a one-man engine for philanthropy.
But the story doesn't quite end there. The final chapter of his life and the legacy he left behind is just as complicated and unconventional as the man himself. You see, long before he passed away in 2015, he wrote a very detailed will. And in it, he made a series of requests that were just so incredibly humble, especially when you think about how famous he was.
And his personal wishes really stood in stark contrast to the world he'd built around him. On one hand, he asked for absolute simplicity. He wanted his body donated to science so he could be a head teacher for medical students, and he explicitly forbade any kind of lavish or royal funeral. But then you look at the reality of the temple he built, and it's a completely different story. The massive amounts of money led to controversy, with allegations about a disciple being kicked out with 30 million baht and official committees having to be formed just to figure out what to do with hundreds of millions in assets.
So, in the end, who really was Luang Phor Koon? Was he a powerful mystic who could actually talk to spirits? Was he one of the greatest philanthropists of his time who completely transformed a region? Or was he maybe something else? Perhaps a mirror, reflecting our own deep need to believe in miracles, in charity, and in a connection to something sacred in this very complicated world. It's definitely something to think about, isn't it?